Picture Earth spun upside down, ice at your feet and stars overhead, ready to unlearn everything your 5th grade wall map whispered. Let's melt some mental glaciers, starting from the planet's frosty underbelly and clawing our way up. Antarctica is different from the South Pole, ever called the whole continent the South Pole. Join the club, then grab your coat and step back. Antarctica is an entire landmass bigger than Europe. The South Pole is a single pinpoint near its middle, encircled by flags like toothpicks in a snow cake. 7 nations slice the ice like birthday pie, and none of them owns the cherry in the center. If one dot can hijack a continent's identity, what else have we been shrinking or stretching? Wait, there are 4 South Poles? Our planet apparently collects poles like sneakers. Geographic, the true spin axis. Geomagnetic, where Earth's magnet darts pierce the crust. Magnetic, the point compasses chase today. It wanders faster than your Wi-Fi signal. Pole of inaccessibility, the spot farthest from any coastline. A frozen purgatory scientists visit mostly for bragging rights. Ask yourself, how many poles does a planet really need before it starts a loyalty program? The Great Wall is not eyeball visible from space. Astronauts squint, cameras zoom. From the International Space Station, the wall's dusty brown bricks blend perfectly with the surrounding Loess Hills. Meanwhile, glimmering runways in Houston shout, "Howdy!" to orbit. Myth busted. Focus those binoculars elsewhere. Greenland versus Africa. David and Goliath Redux. That mint green ice slab hogging the Mercator map. In raw area, it's smaller than the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Africa could swallow Greenland 14 times and still burp up Spain for dessert. Cartographers skew size to keep straight lines straight. Polar regions balloon, tropics slim fit. Africa's true immensity, slide Russia, Canada, the UK, Iceland, and all of Scandinavia into the African outline, and you still won't hit the edges. Mercator made Europe feel important. Reality makes Europe feel like pocket change. Finland isn't technically Scandinavian, but is Nordic. Geography class lumped the Finns in with Viking. Linguistics sings another tune. Finnish is Uralic, cousin. To Hungarian, only distantly acquainted with Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian. Next time a Finn teaches you sisu, know it's not just another Nordic buzzword. It's a whole different language family flexing. Amazon versus Nile. The tape measure keeps moving. Brazilian explorers paddled the Amazon's headwaters in 2007 and tacked on enough hidden creeks to edge the Nile by roughly 60 miles. Cartographers still debate like soccer fans. But for now, the trophy sits in South America. Watch this space. Europe's rooftop is Mount Elbrus. Russia, 18,510 feet, or 5,642 meters. Mont Blanc may dress better, but Elbrus brings the height. Nestled in the Caucasus, it straddles the fuzzy Europe-Asia border. So fuzzy that climbers sometimes earn 2 continent badges for the price of 1 summit. Speaking of borders, Europe and Asia don't agree on theirs. Textbook lines meander. From the Ural Mountains down the Ural River, wobble across the Caspian, vault the Caucasus, then finally gasp at the Black Sea. Other scholars redraw the doodle entirely. Moral: continents are more committee decision than divine decree. Egypt, 2-continent powerhouse. Set foot on the Sinai Peninsula, and you've technically left Africa for Asia, all without losing sight of the pyramids. Geography buffs call this bicontinental living. Pharaohs probably just called it Thursday Kazakhstan. Sneaks into Europe too. Everything west of the Ural River, including a chunk of Kazakhstan, slides onto Europe's invite list. Cue Borat voice. Very nice continental identity. Russia, Eurasian Colossus, in 11 time zones. Is it European? Asian? Both. With 11 time zone, 12 under daylight saving, Russians can literally eat breakfast tomorrow while finishing tonight's dinner. 7 continents? Not everywhere. In Latin American textbooks, America is singular. Afro-Eurasia merges 3 landmasses, and sometimes Antarctica doesn't even get a seat at the table. Count your continents carefully. Airport quizzes may vary. Holland, 2 provinces, not the Netherlands. Call every Dutch citizen a Hollander, and you'll earn polite correction over stroopwafel. Only North and South Holland wear that label. The full country includes 10 other provinces and a scattering of Caribbean islands that never see tulips. Great Britain versus United Kingdom. Spot the difference. Great Britain is the island-hugging England, Scotland and Wales. Add Northern Ireland, plus a constellation of smaller isles, and you've built the United Kingdom. Easy mnemonic. GB is geography. UK is governance. Iceland, surprisingly green, since 874 CE. Viking navigator Hrafna Floki christened the place after spotting a single iceberg in a fjord. Stellar marketing if you're trying to scare off rival settlers. Today, warm Atlantic currents keep much of the coast mossy and sheep-friendly. Abuja, not Lagos, is Nigeria's capital. Traffic jams in Lagos inspired a 1991 relocation to the calm Central Highlands. Abuja now hosts Parliament, embassies, and an amusement park called Magic Land, because even bureaucrats deserve roller coasters. The world's largest desert is Antarctica. A desert is any region where evaporation beats precipitation. Under that rule, the Antarctic polar desert covers 5.5 million square miles, double the Sahara, and significantly whiter. The driest hot desert is Chile's Atacama. Some weather stations there have never recorded rain. Average, under 1 millimeter per year. Sahara who? Deserts come in rock, salt, and ice. Sand is optional. Across Asia's Gobi, gravel outnumbers dunes. Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni glitters with salt. Antarctica crackles with ice crystals. Think of deserts as water diet zones, not sandboxes. Everest isn't the tallest mountain by every metric. Measured sea level to summit? Yes. But count from base to peak, and Hawaii's Mauna Kea wins most of it hides underwater. Measure distance from Earth's center and Ecuador's Chimborazo edges everyone thanks to the equatorial bulge. Earth is a show-off spheroid. Earth is slightly squished. Meet the Oblate spheroid. Spin a water balloon, and its belly bulges. Earth does the same. Centrifugal force at the equator puffs our planet out by about 42 kilometers, trimming the poles like a cosmic waist trainer. That gentle bulge explains why some mountains win farthest from Earth's center, while Everest keeps the highest. Above sea level sash. If our world isn't a perfect sphere, why should our world views be perfectly round? Ottawa, not Toronto, runs Canada's show. Queen Victoria settled a 19th century tug-of-war by picking a logging backwater, equidistant from English Montreal and French Toronto. Today, Ottawa's Parliament Hill overlooks a river once clogged with timber rafts, proof that a compromise can grow into a capital without needing a megacity skyline. Switzerland's capital is Bern, not Geneva. Switzerland hedges bets like it. Hedges mountains. In 1848, the Swiss needed a neutral seat of power. Bern volunteered its tidy medieval streets and central location. Meanwhile, cosmopolitan Geneva hosts the UN, the Red Cross, and more watch boutiques than you can wind in a lifetime. Diplomacy by day, luxury by night. Mercator makes Antarctica look like a white supercontinent. On rectangular maps, the ice sheet sprawls like a villain's lair, big enough to stuff 3 North Americas inside. In reality, you could only squeeze the contiguous US plus Mexico under that frozen dome. Blame a 16th century Flemish cartographer who prioritized ship navigation over size honesty. Straight lines for sailors, distorted truths for everyone else. America's longest river isn't the Mississippi. The Missouri River sneaks out of Montana's Rocky Mountain snowfields, loops 2,540 miles through badlands and cornfields, then finally concedes its water and bragging rights to the Mississippi at St. Louis. Think of the Mississippi as the headline act, and the Missouri as the ghostwriter who penned most of the lyrics. South Africa juggles 3 capital: Pretoria, executive branch, where the president signs bills; Cape Town, legislative capital, parliament, with Table Mountain backdrops; Bloemfontein, judicial hub, Supreme Court of Appeal, beneath endless high-veld skies. Why the trio? 19th century power sharing after the Boer Wars. Modern result, Diplomats rack up air miles, and school kids get 3 field trip options. For civics class, Alaska is America's easternmost state. Wait, what? Semi-Soposhnoi Island, in the Aleutians, nibbles the 180 degrees meridian, meaning a chunk of Alaska technically pokes into the eastern hemisphere, east of Maine, east of Miami, east of New York pizza. Geography's sense of humor is as wide as the Bering Sea. Hawaii lives in Polynesia, not North America. Volcanic peaks born from a mid-Pacific hotspot form linguistic bridges to Tahitian, Samoan, and Maori, ocean-going cousins who steered double-hulled canoes by stars, alone. Hawaii's only North American connection is a political umbilical cord tied in 1959. Culturally, it dances to ukuleles that echo across Oceania. Europe is mostly north of the lower 48, not straight east. London sits at latitude 51.5 degrees N, parallel with Calgary, well above Minneapolis. Athens, side by side with Louisville, Kentucky. Next time someone jokes about Old World warmth, remind them Europe's mild winters owe more to ocean currents than southern coordinates. Which brings us to the Gulf Stream. Isn't Europe's giant space heater? Yes, the current ferries warm Caribbean water northeastward, but atmosphere does heavier lifting. Prevailing westerlies and the North Atlantic's heat storage capacity keep January in Paris milder than January in Montreal. Oceans are thermal. Batteries. Winds decide where the boombox points. Count 5 oceans, not 4. For decades, textbooks listed Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic. In 1999, the U.S. Board on Geographic Names and, in 2021, National Geographic officially crowned the Southern Ocean, encircling Antarctica in a continuous swirl of frigid currents. Sailors already respected its screaming 40-knot winds. Now cartographers respect its status. Australia isn't world's largest island because it's a continent. Islands ride on continental shelves. Continents ride on their own tectonic plates. Australia sits atop Australia, plate, shelf, kangaroos, and all. Next in line, Greenland inherits the biggest island tiara by default, even if 80% of it hides beneath an ice cap. Greenland still answers to Denmark, mostly. 57,000 Greenlanders enjoy broad home rule, but Copenhagen controls defense, currency, and foreign affairs. Imagine a giant snowy teenager allowed to choose dinner, but not permitted to borrow the car. Independence movements simmer. But for now, Danish krone buys the grocery. 2/3 of Africa sits north of the equator. Globes in classrooms often center on Europe, nudging Africa south like a footnote. Flip perspective, the Sahara sprawls above the midline, while the continent's population clusters in greener belts below. Geography's center of gravity doesn't match our mental maps. Frozen vaults. 75% of Earth's fresh water is locked in ice. Tilt a glass of water and imagine 3/4 of it flash freezing into giant white vaults perched on Greenland and Antarctica. Glaciers hoard the bulk of our drinkable supply, while all the world's rivers, lakes, and swamps collectively scrape together less than 1%. No wonder trekkers on polar expeditions describe the landscape as all the water you can't drink. Pause for thought. If the planet's biggest reservoir is solid, what melts in our minds when we learn this? France, champion of clock hopping, thanks to leftover colonial dots. Réunion in the Indian Ocean, Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, tiny St. Pierre-Miquelon off Newfoundland. France straddles 12 time zones, 13 during daylight saving. Paris can sip espresso at dawn, while Tahiti still dances under midnight moonlight. Honorable mention, the United States spans 11 zones, but liberté, égalité, jet lag belongs to France. India overtook China. In April 2023, population curves crossed like 2 high-speed trains. India surged to roughly 1.46 billion, while China slowed and began a gentle decline. Demographers debate dividend and dilemmas, but one certainty remains: classrooms worldwide need a swift atlas update. Antarctic research stations choose whatever time works. With all meridians converging at the pole, scientists adopt the clock of their supply line. US McMurdo uses New Zealand time. Britain's Rothera sinks to Chile. Some tiny outposts simply keep UTC. In the land of 6-month days and nights, wristwatches are as arbitrary as penguin fashion. North and south are human label. Ancient Egyptians flipped them. Hieroglyphic maps oriented upstream. The sea. Nile flowed north, so south sat on top. Medieval cartographers rotated Jerusalem skyward in TO maps. Moral: directions are agreements, not cosmic commandments. Papua New Guinea is closer to Australia than New Zealand is. At low tide, only 4 kilometers of shallow Torres Strait separates Saibai Island from PNG's coast. That's a leisurely kayak. By contrast, the Tasman Sea forces a 1,500-kilometer slog to Auckland. So next time someone brags about our Kiwi neighbors, remind them the real next-door neighbor sells betel nut and sings in talkpeason.cool. Equator plus high altitude equal eternal spring. Stand on Quito's colonial balconies at noon, and you'll feel a mild 18 degrees Celsius, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Step onto Kilimanjaro's peak, and snow crunches underfoot despite hugging the equator. Elevation, not latitude, dictates wardrobe. Jungle below, scarf above. Central America belongs to North America. Draw a geologic line at the narrow Darien Gap. Everything north: Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, rides the Caribbean plate and counts as North America. South America starts where Colombia's rainforest kicks in. So yes, your spring break selfie in Costa Rica was technically North American travel. Portugal has Atlantic, not Mediterranean, swagger. Lisbon greets crashing Atlantic swells. Portuguese sailors rode prevailing westerlies straight to Brazil. The Mediterranean ends at Gibraltar's bottleneck. After that, it's blue water, all the way to the Azores. Pastéis de nata taste better with a salty Atlantic breeze anyway. Venice isn't the canal capital. Amsterdam and Birmingham disagree. Venice's 50 kilometers of waterways feel romantic, until statistics gatecrash. Amsterdam threads more than 100 kilometers. Birmingham, England, claims about 56. No gondolas? Sure. But if length alone crowned the king, Venice would hand over its oar. The Statue of Liberty stands in New Jersey waters. Lady Liberty perches on federally managed Liberty Island, but the surrounding Hudson River pocket belongs to New Jersey by colonial charter. The result? New Yorkers claim the Skyline Trophy. New Jersey quietly invoices the harbor pilots. From Alaska, you can see Russia. On a clear summer day, Little Diomede, US, and Big Diomede, Russia, glare at each other across a 3.8-kilometer gap, close enough to swap Wi-Fi passwords. Cape Prince of Wales can spy Siberian mountains 80 kilometers away. Sarah Palin's meme? Exaggerated, but the geography checks out. The US borders 3 oceans: Pacific on the left, Atlantic on the right, and north of Alaska, the Arctic. Add Gulf of Mexico and Great Lakes for extra water border bragging rights. But strictly by ocean, it's a hat trick. How many countries exist? The answer is fuzzy. Most school posters quote 195, 193 United Nations members, plus Vatican City and Palestine. Yet partially recognized states: Kosovo, Northern Cyprus, Western Sahara, Taiwan, South Ossetia, Abkhazia. Push tallies past 200, depending on whom you ask. Borders aren't lines, they're ongoing negotiations drawn in pencil, erased. In ink, people have known Earth is round for 2,400 years. Aristotle noticed curved lunar eclipses in 350 BCE. Eratosthenes measured Earth's circumference with sticks and shadows in 240 BCE, accurate to within a few hundred miles. Columbus's gamble was logistics, not lizard people edges. So the next time someone praises him for proving the world round, gently roll a globe their way. We've peeled back 50 cartographic falsehoods, dusted off ancient compass points, and stretched continents back to truthful proportions. If your mental atlas feels freshly re-inked, Mission accomplished. Now imagine sharing that thrill. Send this tour to a friend who still thinks the Great Wall glints from orbit, or that penguins march under one time zone. If curiosity is your favorite carry-on, hitch another ride, subscribe, tap the bell, and fuel the next expedition of myth-busting geography. Until we spin the globe again, keep questioning the map